This is what $1 million buys you in Los Angeles. And if you spend $1 million in New York City, you get all of this.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
And this is San Francisco.
Honey, I was in tears. White refrigerator. I was like, oh, not a white refrigerator. Girl, please.
And this costs $1 million in Houston. And here's $1 million in San Diego and Tampa Bay. Imagine spending $1 million on a regular ass 4-bedroom house that you could have got for like $430K like 10 years ago. And you still have to live in Tampa Bay, Florida. This is what $1 million house looks like in Honolulu, Hawaii. What the fuck is this? This is a crime scene. This looks like it's straight out of a Saw movie, bro. Housing is really expensive in America, and it makes no sense. That's it. That's the whole intro. If you're younger than 40 years old, there was never a time when home ownership was anything but a pipe dream. But it wasn't always this way. Between 1985 and the year 2000, average home prices stayed steady between 3.5 to 4 times the average annual income. But by 2007, it shot up to over 5 times the average annual income. And now average home prices are nearly 6 times the average annual income. So what the fuck is going on? Well, there's something happening that most outlets aren't really talking about. It's been going on for a really long time, and it's a little thing called bonus depreciation. This is what turned the American housing market into a giant tax avoidance scheme for private equity firms and billionaires. Younger working people are chomping at the bit for another 2008 style crash, but since this big booty cheeks bill has passed, we might see home prices go up to 7, 8, or even 9 times the average annual income, driving more working class people into homelessness and with no end in sight. So let's go back in time to 2008 during that fun little banking crisis to see how everything got so messed up. We already know that Bill Clinton deregulated the financial system when Glass-Steagall was repealed, which broke down the wall separating savings and loan banks from investment banks, allowing them to bundle mortgages into collateralized debt obligations and sell them with no oversight, assigning fraudulent ratings to these investment products, and bankers engaged in synthetic CDOs and credit default swaps, which hedged their risk, and incentivized banks to issue subprime mortgages with adjustable rates to people with shaky financials, which caused multiple borrowers to default all at once when those low introductory rates adjusted upward, and the mass defaults caused home prices to crash, leaving many homeowners on the hook for a mortgage worth much more than the value of their home, motivating more people to default who would have otherwise been able to afford their mortgage payments, which overexposed lenders, causing some to collapse entirely, deepening the crash in home values, and collapsing the entire global economy in a few short months. W signed a bailout in 2008, which was a shitty move, and Obama signed a second, even shittier bailout back in 2009 and let every criminal banker off the hook for their crimes, while working class people had to pick through the ashes. George W. Bush also did something else that isn't really talked about very often, temporarily allowing real estate investors to claim 50% bonus depreciation in the first year of purchasing an investment property. The goal was to stabilize home values and stop the housing collapse by giving real estate investors a giant tax break for every house they bought. They also got tax breaks for the cost of renovations, which should help improve property values, which was the whole point. Property values were going down, they needed to stop that and make them go back up again. These are tax breaks that normal home buyers do not have access to, but it was a temporary thing meant to stop the crash, and it kind of worked the way it was supposed to. The problem is, after the crash was reversed, it never really went away since then, and private equity investment firms ended up buying hundreds of thousands of homes all across the country. This bonus depreciation scheme is the main thing that fueled the insane rise in housing prices that has displaced working class people and drove property values through the roof. But first, what is bonus depreciation in the first place? Regular depreciation is when a business is given a small tax deduction year after year over a long stretch of time to account for the fact that equipment wears down and needs updates or replacement every once in a while. Certain equipment is assigned a certain specific lifespan, and a tax deductible amount is determined based on the value of that equipment, but not equal to the entire value of that equipment's purchase price in most cases. and a portion of that amount is deducted from their taxable income year after year over the lifespan of that equipment. Bonus depreciation, on the other hand, allows businesses to front-load several years' worth of tax benefits right up front to motivate businesses to buy equipment right now. It's meant to jumpstart a lagging economy by motivating businesses to buy stuff. When it comes to housing investment, depreciation works like this. Let's say an investor buys a $250,000 home that sits on land worth $50K, then spends about $20K on renovations. The cost of buying the house and any renovation costs can be deductible minus the value of the land, and the time frame they're allowed to claim that deductible is split up over 27.5 years. That's $8,000 every year for nearly 30 years. But if there's a 50% bonus depreciation in effect, then that investor gets a $110,000 tax deduction as soon as they put it up for rent. In my opinion, this is insane. They get a gigantic discount on the taxes they owe in return for buying a house. That's kind of crazy, because homeowners living in their own house cannot claim this sort of bonus depreciation or any type of depreciation at all, nor can a homeowner deduct the cost of renovations on the house they live in. Home renovations only really net you a tax penalty, if anything, since you increase the value of the property, which increases the property tax that you pay. So as a homeowner, you end up paying more taxes as thanks for investing in your own home. It might save you a little bit on capital gains tax owed when you eventually sell it many years down the line, since you can claim those renovation costs to determine the capital gains, but that's really marginal. And if you never plan to sell that house and you want to live there until you're retired, well then you never really see any tax benefits. At best, as a homeowner, renovations on your own house really increases your equity, which you can use on a loan or something. But if the banks crash the economy like they did in 2008, then all that equity you built just disappears overnight. Basically, bonus depreciation creates two sets of rules, one for home buyers and one for investors. Investors get handed enormous tax benefits when they buy a house, and homeowners basically get nothing. And the exact amount of tax benefits those investors get grows the more the property is worth. So they have an incentive to drive values sky high. And that's exactly what they did. So the thing about real estate investment depreciation is real estate doesn't really depreciate in real life. I mean, look at that $1 million house in Honolulu. This thing is tore the fuck up, but it's still worth $1 million to somebody. So let's go back and talk about regular business depreciation. If a plumbing business owns a van or a warehouse owns a forklift, these things usually do wear down and depreciate into worthlessness in real life. A plumbing company can claim a depreciation on their van over 5 years, which is the lifespan for a business vehicle as determined by the IRS. And after 5 years, when the warranty is up, it makes more sense to just get a new van anyways. So usually plumbing businesses will go out and get a new van. And this helps out auto manufacturers, it helps out the local dealership, and it motivates the plumbing company to get newer, more efficient vehicles that they don't have to waste time maintaining or risk losing business every time the old van breaks down. So everybody wins. But old homes don't really break down, and they certainly last a lot longer than 27.5 years without significant repairs being needed. I live in a 30-year-old apartment and it seems perfectly fine to me. I know people who live in 50-year-old houses, 80-year-old houses, and they're mostly fine. They just need little things here and there to keep it livable, but you don't need to like knock it down entirely and start from scratch. And when it comes to rental properties, that's especially true. Rental properties just need the same amount of upkeep that a normal house needs. So why don't I, as a homeowner, get to deduct my renovation costs? The assumption is rental property owners spend a ton of money on upkeep, maintenance, and renovations, but we all know that doesn't fucking happen. So they get a deduction to help with the costs that many of them aren't even paying. So going back to that example earlier, you get an $8,000 deduction every year. Are they spending $8,000 every year to keep that house running? Are they even spending half that? Real estate investment depreciation doesn't really make any sense. And bonus depreciation is even worse. Bonus depreciation is a very, very large tax deduction that an investor can only access once in the first year that they put that property up for rent. So normal working people who may want to get in on this and buy a rental property don't even owe enough money in taxes to even benefit from that large of a deduction. So the only people who really benefit from this system are giant private equity firms, because they actually do have enormous levels of taxes that they owe, sometimes in the millions of dollars. So they can buy up hundreds or even thousands of houses and reduce their multi-million dollars of taxes they owe down to zero. Then they can do the same thing the next year when they owe millions of dollars, drop it down to zero. And then the next year, and then the next year. So as long as that bonus depreciation system is in effect, they can keep on buying houses year after year to legally evade paying taxes that they owe. Homeowners, on the other hand, can only deduct the mortgage interest paid in any given year, but that's not very much. Homeowners only have access to a tiny little mortgage interest deduction that's only a few $1,000s, while investment bankers can deduct the entire value of that house. This, in my opinion, is insane. Homeowners actually living in their houses get close to nothing, and investors get everything. So what George W. and Obama should have done was force lenders to refinance loans based on the lower interest rates and lower home values in the aftermath of the 2008 crash, so people can actually stay in their houses instead of defaulting on their loans. If that actually happened, homeowners would start paying lower mortgage payments, live in their house instead of defaulting, and they'd have more money in their pocket to spend and stimulate the economy. And if banks refuse to refinance at the lower value and the lower rates, well then they don't get any bailout funds. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development could refinance directly with each homeowner. The banks broke the economy, not the homeowners living in their homes. So why did the banks get a bunch of money while homeowners were left on their ass? But instead, they handed out giant tax breaks on top of taxpayer-funded bailout money to the exact same bankers that destroyed the housing market, and they used it to buy up real estate, and on top of that, they got more tax breaks to renovate these homes, which is what fueled the gentrification of our neighborhoods. And the crazy thing is, this wasn't the first time this happened. So bonus depreciation wasn't a new thing in 2008. It was actually introduced way back in 2002 by George W. Bush again, after the recession caused by 9/11. And once it went effect in 2002, home prices immediately shot up. Back then, it was only a 30% bonus depreciation that was only supposed to last until 2004. But as 2004 approached, an election was coming up, and real estate investors who were loving these free tax breaks begged for more. So the 30% bonus depreciation was actually boosted up to 50% between 2003 and 2004. So after 2004, it actually did go away for a few years, but W brought it back in 2008, right at the end of his term, as the economic crash was starting to take shape. And this time it was another 50% bonus. And then Obama renewed it in 2009, then again in 2010. Then investors got a 100% bonus between September 2010 and December 2011, then back to 50% for 2012 through 2013, and then it was extended again in 2014, and one more time in 2015, and that one lasted until 2017. But it was supposed to start winding down into about 40% in 2018 and 30% in 2019 before it finally went away. Just kidding, because in 2017, when Trump took office, his 2017 tax bill allowed a 100% first-year bonus depreciation between 2018 and 2022. And it was supposed to start finally winding down in 2023, dropping to 80%, and then 60% in 2024, then down to 40% in 2025, expiring at the end of this year. Just kidding again, because the so-called Big Beautiful Bill brought it all back, retroactively restoring the 100% bonus depreciation for any rental property put into service throughout 2025 and keeping it in place all the way until December 31st, 2029. That means investors had access to bonus depreciation for every year since 2002, except for a short period between 2004 and 2008. Basically, real estate investors became addicted to this bonus depreciation scheme. They got a giant tax break every time they bought a home, and the higher the home's value meant a higher tax break for the private equity firms. So again, they are incentivized to drive up home values as much as possible, and that's exactly what they've been doing. So for homeowners who just want to live in their home, it drives up their home value and their property tax bill along with it, and it drives up the cost of rent for people who can't afford a home in the first place. 2 entire generations of Americans have lived through this broken real estate system, aware that something is wrong, but unable to understand how it got so bad. Well, I'm here to tell you that this is exactly how it got so bad. Bonus depreciation is the single thing that is wrong with the system. Bonus depreciation has stacked the deck against you. Just look at the jump in these home prices over the past few decades and how it matches the timeline of the bonus depreciation scheme. It is the single largest driver for the explosion in home prices, and somehow it gets worse. So knowing all this, I was looking at all the facts and charts and data, and I started to notice something. Private equity would buy houses to invest in and rent out, then claim a huge amount of depreciation up front, which lowers their enormous tax bills. Working people who own a rental property or regular house flippers can't really access the benefits of this, since they don't owe enough in taxes for it to work out financially, and flippers are trying to fix up the house and sell it for a profit as soon as possible anyway, which potentially exposes them to capital gains taxes. But giant investment firms owe taxes in all sorts of different ways. They have income coming in all sorts of different directions, and that means they owe a lot of taxes. So they can buy thousands of houses and claim millions in tax breaks in a single year, since bonus depreciation allows them to claim a bunch of those tax breaks right up front in the first year when they put it up for rent. So as they drive home values up, they can claim more and more tax breaks year after year. So they buy up more and more houses. So what's stopping private equity firms from targeting high demand regions and keeping units off the market altogether, which cuts supply and boosts demand, artificially driving up the price of houses? They can buy a house and hold it for several years and then put it up for rent 3 or 4 years later. So they can buy a house in 2017, for example, hold on to it, keep it empty all the way until 2023, for example. You know, they could slow roll renovations. They can use every loophole available to delay putting them up for rent, because they get that bonus depreciation based on the year that they put it up for rent, not based on the year they purchase it. If they owe a bunch in taxes in a certain year, they can figure out exactly how many houses they can put up for rent in that year to cancel out that tax bill, but stop right there, keeping more houses empty, ready for the next tax year where they do it all over again. Then with all these empty houses they have in their, asset column, they can buy up even more houses at even higher prices, and then sit on those for several years, delaying putting them up for rent for as long as they need to so they can maximize their tax benefits. So that's what they can do. They can buy more houses, keep them empty, claim more and more bonus depreciation. The empty houses drive up the value of the homes in the area, allowing them to access even more bonus depreciation in future years. So as long as bonus depreciation is in effect, it gives them free rein to game the system. And with the rise of short-term rentals, more houses are sitting empty and unavailable to working class people who actually want to buy these homes and live in them, and people who want to rent it long-term. So people who actually live in that city where these Airbnbs are don't have anywhere to live. Short-term rental owners also have access to the bonus depreciation, and potentially gives investment firms a way to hide empty homes in plain sight. They can buy the home, make it available for rent, and then just price it so high that nobody even rents it out. That way they don't even have to spend money on upkeep. It's just an empty house sitting there, appreciating in value. Then when they actually sell the house sometime down the road, the value of the house has ballooned to insane proportions, so they can make even more money if they eventually sell it. And any capital gains tax that they might owe is canceled out by even more new home purchases that they can claim bonus depreciation on when that tax bill comes due. So in my opinion, these investment firms are buying up houses and leaving them empty to boost their value, which is market manipulation. This is illegal, and it's only possible because of bonus depreciation. So as long as it stays in effect, then they can keep pulling this shell game on new home purchases, which drives up home prices to infinity, even if they sit empty. Especially if they sit empty, and all the while, working class people struggle to pay for a roof over our heads. This isn't just some nonsense I came up with. There is some actual data to back this up. For example, the number of vacant houses has increased. That's a simple fact. Also, investment firms own stakes in new home construction development firms, and while demand and prices have gone up, they have been building less and less houses over recent years. This only makes economic sense if investors make more money with less houses on the market. Their tax avoidance scam also had consequences outside of the housing market. In 2019 and 2020, Trump successfully cyberbullied the Fed and pushed them into quantitative easing measures instead, specifically to keep the rates low. And this was a primary driver for the high inflation that we experienced during the early years of COVID, because quantitative easing involves printing a whole bunch of money and sending it overseas to bondholders. And more money means higher inflation, higher money supply, blah, blah, blah. I made a video about it. Check it out. So why was he trying so hard to keep interest rates low? Well, historically, when interest rates go up, the value of homes goes down because people who are trying to get a mortgage can only spend so much in a single month, right? So when interest goes up, more of that monthly payment is taken up with interest. So home values kind of have to go down so they can, afford that monthly payment. If not, people aren't buying houses. But a funny thing happened later on, because after COVID, interest rates actually did go up because of the economic catastrophe that was taking place. But as the interest rates went up, home prices continued to rise. This goes against all economic fundamentals. If interest goes up, then the monthly payment goes up. And if people can't afford it, and houses are still getting bought, then that means something's wrong. Something's different this time. So what was so different? Big investment firms buy homes in cash. The interest rate doesn't matter to them. So the fact that home prices continued to rise after the rate hikes of 2002 and 2003 proves that investment firms just kept on buying homes. Despite job loss and economic turmoil, homes continued to be bought. The brief drop in home values after COVID turned around after normal people sold their homes, and investment firms just swooped in to buy them all up. Ask anyone who was involved in real estate back then. Homes would sell after a day on the market, often getting bought by mysterious cash buyers offering tens of thousands of dollars over the asking price. So the bonus depreciation scheme truly has broken the real estate market in America, and it needs to go away. The worst part is, if it does go away, then the market will certainly crash. If private equity investors don't get a giant tax benefit every time they buy a house, well, they're going to stop buying houses. And they're going to start selling these houses to make some money. And the faster they sell these houses, the more the home values are going to crash. And when firms start unloading those properties that they own, they will be in a race to sell their homes off to maximize their returns, causing a very steep crash. And if the crash is deep enough, it could be catastrophic, like worse than 2008 catastrophic. And if investment firms coordinate their efforts, then they could even cause a crash. Then they have an excuse to beg for a return to the bonus depreciation system they had before and start the scam all over again. Which got me thinking, maybe that already happened. So the original bonus depreciation went away at the end of 2004. And in the years after that, the shady CDOs and credit default swaps and subprime mortgages started to ramp up. And against all banking norms, lenders started to give out loans to people who simply could not afford to pay them. Banks saddled people with adjustable rates that all became unaffordable around the same exact time, while they protected themselves against default with synthetic CDOs and credit default swap schemes. And when the economy crashed in 2008, they asked for a return to the bonus depreciation system that ended in 2004 and got a giant pile of taxpayer-funded bailout money, which they used to buy up our homes. So did investors drive the economy off a cliff back in 2008 on purpose so they can claim that another round of bonus depreciation is needed to save the real estate market and turn things around? Did banks sabotage the housing market on purpose so they can get their hands on taxpayer money to buy up our houses? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. But if they did do all that on purpose, it would be incredibly illegal. We are already living in a country with so many empty homes that we could house every homeless person and then some. And at the same time, new home construction is slowing down. But for some reason, luxury high-rise condos keep getting built. Are people even buying and living in these luxury condos? Or are they just there to serve as properties that investment firms can buy from each other over and over again and claim bonus depreciation on each time they swap ownership of these condos? Look around in your own neighborhood. How many homes seem empty to you? The light never turns on. There's never a car in the driveway. Exactly how broken is the housing system in this country? So an extension of this depreciation scheme already passed in the big, beautiful bill. That means the market will remain broken and homes will remain unaffordable until at least December 31st, 2029. And at the same time, people will be getting kicked off of Medicare, spending cuts will destroy job opportunities across the country, and taxes for working people will go up. It will drive more working people into homelessness, and private equity investors will be ready to buy up more houses and cash in on all the tax breaks extended to them, and home prices will keep going up. People are anticipating another 2008-style housing collapse, but we're heading towards something much, much worse. An oligarchy that owns all of our homes, who pay little to no taxes, while the working class fight for scraps in the gutter. We're not headed towards another 2008. We're headed towards 1908, where the working class live in slums and a couple thousand rich people who never worked a day in their life own everything. So how do we fight back? Well, any scam isn't effective if people know how the scam works. So share this video and spread the word, because if more people know how this bonus depreciation scam works, we could all push back on our elected officials to end this crazy program. This is a welfare handout to billionaires. We need to build a better system that protects working people who actually live in their homes. We can start by investigating my theories and see if all the things I'm saying were actually happening, because if so, that would be a good place to start, and we can maybe put some of these people in jail. So if you know any like investigative journalists, maybe send them this video, see if we can find something in the paperwork. That will also pump up my view count, which would be nice for me. I'm trying to get more views and subscribers, so while I'm at it, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, say a comment. You think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. I'm kind of, just reading the tea leaves here. I'm just looking at the numbers and seeing if it tells me a story, you know what I mean? So tell me what you think. Is this the first time you've heard of bonus depreciation at all? Because it's been around for over 2 decades, and if you're not hearing about it till now, then, maybe it tells you something. They're trying to hide these kind of schemes from you. And who knows how many other schemes are out there that they're using to take advantage of us. Well, that's all. Thanks. See you next time.